Hello, everyone. My name is Cherie, and in honor of The Godfather turning 50 years old, I watched a crime movie every day for a week. The first one is a very 80s movie. It's called Turner and Hooch. Came out in 1989. It's rated PG and it runs for 1 hour and 37 minutes. A neat freak detective teams up with a slobbery dog to find its owner's killer. This is a buddy cop action comedy starring Tom Hanks and a pooch named Hooch. Why do we call dogs pooches? Um, comedy, it's kind of a question mark because it's not a laugh riot, but it's not like a totally serious, gritty detective movie. It's kind of like an amalgamation of the two. I will definitely say the pros in this movie were Tom Hanks and the dog. I mean, it's just fun to watch both of them. As for the cons, okay, spoiler alert, the dog dies at the end. Um, and yeah, I just don't like those kind of movies. It was also, it had an inconsistent tone and it was kind of forgettable. Like I can barely tell you what the plot was now. I see locations in my mind, but it's just like it's gone. Let's go back to the dog dies thing. So there's a trope in screenwriting right now that people are trying to avoid, and it's because we've seen it way too much, and it just needs to stop. So if you're writing a script with a white cis male protagonist, do not have them learn and grow and go through their arc because of the death of an animal, a person of color, a person with a disability, an LGBTQ person, or a woman. Okay, it's been overdone and it's kind of frowned upon right now. So if you're writing that kind of script, just analyze what you're doing and how you're doing the arc, and if anyone has to die for your white male protagonist. Okay. Let's see other things about Turner and Hooch. It had 5 screenwriters, which is weird. Maybe that's why it's a little messy with the tone. Also, the director also directed A Street Cat Named Bob, which was one of my favorite movies a couple years ago. So just plugging that movie again. All right. The second film I watched was Dog Day Afternoon. This is from 1975, rated R, 2 hours and 4 minutes. And this is a very 70s movie, just gritty and grimy, and yeah. It's based on true events. When an inexperienced criminal leads a bank robbery, things quickly go wrong and a hostage situation develops. The pros: Al Pacino, John Cazale, great actors. Sidney Lumet's direction was great. And it had this, gritty 70s naturalistic style. Really suited the film. The only con I had was like the ending, the very last scene just seemed a little too abrupt. So it won an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay for Frank Pearson, but I'm questioning like why it was in the original category because it was based on an article from Life magazine. And usually when scripts are nominated these days, if they were based on articles, they'll go in the best adapted screenplay category. So I don't know, maybe this was just an earlier thing and then they changed it. The next movie I watched was from the 1990s, and this is, it's like a total 90s film. It's called The Rookie. Came out in 1990, rated R. It's 2 hours and 1 minute. A veteran cop is assigned to work with a rookie cop to catch a crook who killed the vet's old partner. So this was directed by Clint Eastwood, and here's why I watched it, and I'll call this the pros about it. When I was back in film school the first time, The Rookie was being shot in San Jose, and it was at the San Jose airport. So I watched this whole movie just to wait, to see the part that was shot in San Jose. And it was the very last scene, and the movie takes place in LA. So I was like, how are they going to get to San Jose? What they had done is because in LA, you can't just like shut down an airport. You can't just shoot in airports. And so San Jose had just built a new section of their airport. It wasn't quite finished, it wasn't quite open. And so they were able to shoot the movie there before it opened officially. So that's what that was. And a couple of my classmates were actually like background extras in the movie. I'm going to say the cons on this one. It's a very by the book detective story. It's completely forgettable. It's predictable. I just didn't like it. I don't recommend this one. Um, and it's funny because it stars Clint Eastwood and Charlie Sheen. Clint Eastwood directed this one. Clint Eastwood's next movie was Unforgiven. So it's so weird. Like it goes from The Rookie to Unforgiven. So the fourth film I watched was Kajillionaire. This came out in 2020. It's rated R and it's 1 hour and 46 minutes. A woman's life is turned upside down when her criminal parents invite an outsider to join them in a major heist. This was billed as a really quirky, fun comedy, and I was all there for it because I like quirky. However, this was not my quirk. I love Evan Rachel Wood, and I think she did a fine job in this, but I did not like her character. She's great in the Westworld series, but here I guess it's the character. She's kind of passive, and she lets things happen to her. Deborah Winger is in it also, and Deborah Winger gives a great performance too. But again, this is just a strange, at times boring film, again with a passive protagonist. And it's forgettable. I can't tell you much of the story again. And even though I watched a week of crime videos, I don't really approve of criminals. So I don't enjoy watching anything that glorifies crime or is saying that crime isn't bad, you know. And this one is just doesn't really have a moral standing on that. Um, so anyway, yeah, quirky, but just not to my taste. And the last three films were the Godfather trilogy. I have my box set back there, and it was just great to rewatch this, epic film series. The Godfather was released in 1972, March of 1972, 50 years ago, and it changed cinema. It's so epic and it's so brilliant even today. It really ages well. It's rated R, 2 hours and 55 minutes. Yes, it's long, but it's worth it. It was co-written by Francis Ford Coppola and Mario Puzo, based on Mario Puzo's novel. The youngest son of a mafia don reluctantly takes control of the family business. Okay, so what are the pros? Everything. The story, the directing, the acting, the editing, the music, the cinematography. It won Best Picture. Um, and like cons, okay, it's really violent. It's really violent. A lot of gore, a lot of bullets and blood and death. But it's just epic. It's epic. It's wonderful. It does not glorify crime. The character, it's kind of like a negative character arc. In the beginning, you have Al Pacino, who plays Michael Corleone, telling his girlfriend that he's not going to be like his father, the Godfather Vito Corleone, played by Marlon Brando. And he ends up going in that direction, and it's sad. But it's a beautiful movie. You have to see it. If you haven't seen The Godfather, you have to see it. They re-released it in the theaters for a short time. I don't think it's still out right now, but if it is playing in the theaters in your neighborhood, please check it out. The Godfather Part 2, released in 1974, rated R, 3 hours and 22 minutes, longer than the first one. Again, it's really good. You got to see it. The script was by Coppola and Puzo again. The continuing saga of the Corleone crime family tells the story of a young Vito Corleone growing up in Sicily and in 1910s New York, and follows Michael Corleone in the 1950s as he attempts to expand the family business into Las Vegas, Hollywood, and Cuba. Okay, the pros. Everything that were pros in the last movie. I mean, everything is just so excellently done. Um, Also, the flashbacks are wonderful, going to Sicily and seeing how the Vito character grows up. I just loved it, loved it. And it's kind of like it's both a sequel and a prequel, all wrapped up in one. So that's really interesting. I just thought how it was edited together was fantastic. Um, so cons, it's long, it's violent, it's worth it. It's great. It's great. All right, and this is the first sequel to win Best Picture. So the original won Best Picture, and the sequel won Best Picture. All right, and the last one, The Godfather Part 3. It came out in 1990, rated R, 2 hours and 38 minutes. The script was also written by Coppola and Puzo. An aging Don Michael Corleone seeks to legitimize his crime family's interests and remove himself from the violent underworld, but is kept back by the ambitions of the young. All right, so you guys know how much I love Sofia Coppola, and I will be her defender. So she was brought into this at the last minute to play a main character, which was Michael Corleone's daughter. And she was replacing Winona Ryder, who backed out due to nervous exhaustion. So all the negative reviews kind of centered around her and her performance. As I was watching it, I was thinking, well, you know, if you're not getting the performance you need from someone, you do another take. Like, I was getting mad at her father for not getting it to the place that it needed to be. And so I was like, well, you know, the director just did a really poor job shooting this. And then I listened to a Beyond the Screenplay podcast. They post them on YouTube, so you can watch them talking about the movies. And they did the whole Godfather series. One person in that podcast made the comment that they didn't really have good dialogue to work with. It was on the nose dialogue. There was no subtext. It was kind of like, if you remember the dialogue that George Lucas had for the love affair between Padme and Anakin Skywalker. You know, it was just so cringe. What was it, like Attack of the Clones, I think? It's almost like it was the same dialogue writer. It was really bad. Okay, some of the lines that Sofia Coppola got to say. I love you, cuz. I'll always love you. I really love him. Okay, these were the kinds of things that she had to work with. And it's just really hard. I mean, if you're a really seasoned actor, sometimes you can pull that stuff off. But yeah, I mean, the problem was the script. The problem was bad dialogue, not directing to get the right kind of takes. And yeah, so I do not blame this on Sofia Coppola at all. I really cannot recommend this film. However, my friend, my Sicilian friend, my Sicilian editor friend, just saw The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone, which was a recut of The Godfather Part 3. He said it worked a lot better. So I haven't seen it yet. I'm not rushing out there to see it, but I probably will see it at some point. It would be nice if that were the case, because yeah, The Godfather Part 3, it has a lot of good ideas, but it just doesn't have all the excellence in all the departments that the first two Godfathers had. All right, so thank you for watching this video. Let me know what your favorite crime film is, and I will see you in the next video.